Winter has officially arrived here in Vancouver, Canada, and I am finally ready to embrace it. I just got back from 2 weeks on the beautiful Azores Islands, which are located in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, some 1,400 kilometers from mainland Portugal and over 1,900 kilometers off the coast of Canada. It's considered the Hawaii of the Atlantic, and like Hawaii, the weather can be a little bit unpredictable, especially during the winter months. And unfortunately, it was a little more rainy and windy even than usual, but I still had a great time. Now, I am planning on making a documentary on my entire adventure, but that won't be ready for a couple of months at least. So in this video, I'll give you a little preview of both my experience running the epic Azores Trail Race and of what I got up to the rest of my trip as I explored a few of the islands. So I arrived on São Miguel Island, the largest of the islands on the archipelago, just 2 days before the start of my race, the epic Azores 60K race. So I arrived early this morning around 7 a.m., got my car rental, I came and got checked into the hotel and I had a quick nap. I only had a couple hours sleep last night on the plane. I normally try to travel up to a week early to give myself more time to settle in and to adjust to the time change when I'm going to Europe. But the Azores Islands are only a 7-hour difference, and I wanted to give myself more time to relax after the race while I explored a couple of the other islands. And they have a saying on the Azores that you can experience all 4 seasons in a single day. The weather was perfect when I arrived, but that would not last, and the epic Azores would certainly live up to its name. The morning of the race brought heavy rain, and there had also been heavy winds in the forecast, so the course actually had to be rerouted in a few spots at higher elevations where the conditions would just make it too dangerous. We'd end up getting hail and heavy winds with gusts over 75 kilometers per hour. The temperature dropped and the already challenging course turned completely to mud. And the rest of my race wouldn't exactly go as planned either, but I won't spoil it for those of you who didn't read my Strava report. The film will show it all in its rugged, messy, and amazingly fun glory, and, well, ultimately defeat. A few days after the race, I got a chance to join a group of guys to see what I'd missed while they pulled the remaining flagging from the course, and it was stunning to say the least.
The other one, I don't remember.
I also joined the race director Lewis for a run around an area called Set Cidades, which was absolutely beautiful. This wasn't part of the course, it was further west on the island, but it's a must-see location for anyone visiting São Miguel. After a week on the island, I took a 40-minute flight to nearby Terceira Island, where I'd spent the next few days with João and Angelo, chasing waterfalls and enjoying some really great local food. Just like us back in Vancouver, when the weather is bad, they head for the cover of the canopy, where the creeks come alive with the rainfall. We did have one decent weather window where we hit the coastline to run along a coastal trail and scramble around on the rocks. I also got a chance to visit João's place for lunch and to learn more about his long running career. He's been running for 42 years and his story is really incredible. And you'll get a chance to meet him and learn all about it in my upcoming documentary. Now, after a few days on Terceira, I'd planned to hop over to nearby Pico Island, but unfortunately my flight on the Sunday was canceled due to strong side winds, and then further delayed on Monday morning because of weather as well. This is pretty normal for this time of year, so you've just got to roll with it. But the local airline is really great with this kind of thing and covered the cost of an extra night's hotel along with transportation and food, which honestly was probably worth more than the flight itself. But when I did finally arrive on Monday afternoon, I only really had about 24 hours on Pico Island. But I still managed to get out for a run to explore the island a little bit with a local contact I'd made named Carlos. He also gave me a quick tour of some of the local sites, like the traditional walled vineyards, which are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as well as a wine tasting at a local winery. I then headed back to São Miguel, where I had just a few more days on the main island before heading home. I was able to squeeze in another run with Lewis as we explored a whole bunch of waterfalls in the drainages along the northern coastline. And his dog Set came with us for what was his first run since Lewis rescued him just over a month ago. Set was bred to help hunt rabbits, but wasn't exactly being raised in the best conditions. He was from the area known as Set Cidades, which is how he got his name. And he did great on his first run and even managed to bring us a rabbit carcass, which he seemed pretty proud of. One of my favorite parts of the trip was definitely the food. I had some of the best seafood in my life there, including trying barnacles for the first time, which were delicious. I especially loved the octopus stew, which is a traditional dish, and I really liked the sweetbread that they make there as well. I visited the pineapple plantation, the tea plantation, I saw a ton of churches, lighthouses, and of course the famous happy cows of the Azores Islands, and the thermal pools in Furnas. But there were a bunch of things that I missed, like whale watching and other water-based activities that just aren't really possible in the winter. Having said that, I do typically prefer to travel in the off-season because you just avoid all of the crowds and things are typically a lot cheaper as well. And that was definitely true in the Azores. The hotels were basically empty and you didn't really need reservations even in the most popular restaurants. And everything was basically half price, including the car rentals. We not only had most of the trails to ourselves, but even the parking lots at trailheads were pretty much empty. It was just a really nice and leisurely way to explore at my own pace, because apparently it can get pretty busy in the summer months, not to mention a lot more expensive. You've just got to have a more flexible schedule and you've got to keep your expectations a little bit lower when it comes to the weather. But coming from Vancouver, I'm pretty used to the rain and the showers typically wouldn't last too long anyway. And I met so many great people there. I was really able to experience it from a local's perspective and to visit some of the less popular and remote sites as well. So I'm definitely planning on going back one day. In fact, I think it could make a pretty great place to hold a trail running camp with a group one day in the future as well. Sort of part running tour and part cultural experience. The Azores Islands really do offer a unique mix of rugged nature and European charm. And I really just barely scratched the surface. There are 6 other major islands that I didn't even get to see. And while I did a pretty good job of exploring both São Miguel and Terceira Islands, I definitely need to go back to Pico one day. And I'd love to summit Mount Pico, which is actually the highest mountain in Portugal. But that's something that you need a good weather window for, which makes a successful attempt all the more special. This film is going to be a lot of fun to put together, so stay tuned for that. But first, I've now got to focus on editing my series from the race in the country of Georgia that I did back in June. That's basically going to be my focus now for the next 2 months or so. My running is going to finally take a back seat as I take some much needed recovery time and switch gears to backcountry skiing. And let me know in the comments if skiing adventures are something that you'd like to see some content from as well. But until then, happy holidays, and thank you all so much for following along with my adventures throughout 2022. And I will talk to you all in the new year.